Joining us now on the phone is historian Bruce Thornton, National Fellow at the Hoover Institution and professor at California State University. He is the author of the brand new book, The Wages of Appeasement. Congratulations on the book, Bruce.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, you anatomize appeasement through the historical examples of ancient Greece, Neville Chamberlain's Europe, and the West's confrontation with Islamic Jihad and its state sponsor, Iran. In your view, is President Obama appeasing the Islamists and the regimes that sponsor them, like Iran?
Absolutely, but let's be fair, this has been consistently going on since 1979 through presidents of both political parties.
Okay, tell us more about that.
Well, Iran in 1979 essentially declared war on the United States. It took our diplomatic staff hostage, and since then it has financed the terrorist groups such as Hezbollah, responsible for the 1983 Marine barracks bombing. It is currently financing terrorist jihadist organizations that are killing Americans in Iraq and Afghanistan. So they've been at war with us, but we haven't responded in kind. Instead, we have tried various ways, whether Ronald Reagan's Iran-Contra fiasco or currently today the failed outreach of Barack Obama not to deal with the fact that this is an aggressor who does not want to get along with us.
What is your assessment of President Obama's approach toward terrorism? Has he lost his nerve in the face of an enemy?
Well, I think he's made the mistake that many Democrats did and John Kerry did and Bill Clinton before him of wanting to treat this as a criminal issue to be dealt with through, investigation, prosecution, et cetera. And he hasn't taken the measure of the motivations and passionate intensity of the jihadists who are not interested in getting along with us, but ultimately can only be destroyed to be removed as a threat. So I'm not sure it's so much that he's weak as he's just bought into a foreign policy paradigm that's terribly flawed.
Let's talk about this week and some big developments as it relates to foreign policy this week. President Obama made a speech to the nation about U.S. involvement in Libya. The president said that Muammar Gaddafi must go. Do you think that he's willing to do what it takes to remove Gaddafi?
No, of course not. He's not going to send U.S. troops. The French aren't going to send troops. And unless troops are sent in, it's very likely that you will end up with one of several unpleasant scenarios. Either Gaddafi wins, or there's a stalemate, or there's a continuing low-level, vicious war that would be fought with small arms in urban context, or we reprise what we did in Iraq for 12 years with a no-fly zone that settles nothing and allows us to pretend like we're actually doing something.
Bruce, do you think the White House has shifted U.S. policy away from Israel toward the Muslim world?
Of course it has, yes. I mean, that's its most disastrous, I think, mistake. But then this is a mistake that's been going on for 30 or 40 years. George Bush II, he pushed back against that, and I think there were some benefits to that. But that ideal that some American president is going to step in and is going to resolve that long crisis is absurd. What we should realize is that our staunchest ally is Israel, the only functioning democracy in the Middle East, in the heart of a region that hates our guts. And rather than undermining them and asking them to use their citizens as sort of sacrifices for some mythic peace agreement, we should support them to the hilt. And it's a disastrous move on his part.
Why do you think he isn't more supportive of Israel?
Well, there's been a narrative constructed based on lies about the whole problem going back to 1948 that has taken over many in the State Department and many in this country, including so-called conservatives, in which Israel is the aggressor. Israel, outnumbered 400 to 1, is the aggressor and has to make the concessions that they're the illegal occupiers. And it's a historical lie that has become a truth that lies behind many of our policies.
Now, President Obama seems to feel that international institutions like the UN can resolve conflict and deter an aggressor. You wrote about this in the book. In your view, should the UN disband?
Oh, I don't care if the UN disbands. I think we should get out of it, and we should invite them to move their headquarters to someplace in the third world, because it's a farce. It's nothing but an instrument for weak states to counter our influence and our power. It's nothing but a political organization serving illiberal, mostly autocratic, anti-American regimes.
Bruce, last question real quickly. What are the consequences of appeasement for the average American? Could the U.S. go the way of ancient Athens?
No. The point is that we don't face that sort of existential threat. Athens loses its sovereignty on one day at one battle. In World War II, there was a possibility that if we lost, there would have been severe consequences. But as I said earlier, this is even more insidious because this is going to be a long, slow erosion of our freedoms. And just think what happens every time you go to the airport to get on an airplane. It's absolutely absurd what we go through. And that could just be the beginning of the sort of slow motion erosion of our freedom that will be the result of not dealing with this problem the way we should.
All right, the book is The Wages of Appeasement. It's a fantastic read, Bruce Thornton. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.